Hello, everybody, and welcome to my workshop, which is Introductory to Python. At the beginning, I'm going to tell you some of the concept for this course. So course is more about practice. So if you're familiar with Python or if you analyze it, it is not a problem. So here, if you analyze, we are going to go through all the important concept of the Python. And if you have some experience, we are going to gain and improve your skills by doing exercises and practicing. And if you think that you are very familiar with Python, please let me know. We can find good exercises for you to challenge your skills and to advance them to the next level. And please ask the question straight away. If you don't understand some concept, it's okay, because the level of the class is of the audience is very different. And if you ask questions that are important for you, so you're better to ask the question right away. Okay, so why do we need programming skills at all? First of all, we all live in a digital world now, and these digital worlds oftentimes requires programming skill. So more and more jobs require computers, and people should know how to manage them. And while there are a lot of programs that manage computers and machines, it may be beneficial to know a little bit more, to have a little bit programming skills to better manipulate and organize your work with using computers. And more and more devices today have computers inside, from your cell phones, washing machines, your cars. Computers are everywhere. And you can benefit of having programming skills if you work with data, if you draw scientific graphics for your reports and publications. If you want to have a personal web page, you can also benefit of having programming skills. Or maybe you want to use your personal computer more efficiently to automatize some your routine tasks. And here's an example. There is a picture of a teeny computer that costs only $100, and it's called Raspberry Pi. And you can create a lot of devices based on this computer. So you can, for example, buy a kit on an Amazon where there is a lot of learning tasks for mastering Python, artificial intelligence, with a lot of programs, and you can use Python to program to create some programs to manipulate with computers, with LCD displays, with create some graphics with LED, to read information from the buttons. So a lot of things you can do by using to master and to use your programming skills. So why it's important to practice programming skills? So as I said, in this course, you may have a different level of knowledge and different level of practice, but even mastering by mastering your skills by solving simple tasks raises your productivity and creativity in solving everyday routines. Practicing in programming skill masters everything around you, software-based solutions. You can gain fluidity with creating and using software. You will also grow your accuracy and dependability of the software that you're creating. And by practicing, you will also increase your readability and shareability of your code. So that's why we need practicing. And the last thing is what is great about Python. So first of all, it is programming language that is very easy to learn and use. So it is programs in Python, they are very compact and they do not require some additional knowledge that requires other languages such as C or C++, because it's actually it is created to be simple and get ready and be ready for use right away. As a result, it has a quick development time because you don't have to think about many other concepts. It is a great fit for people who are not software engineers. It is ideal for those who work with data that is stored in files such as Excel, CSV, PDF, and all other files. Python makes life of scientists, engineers, and other specialists easier because it allows to automatize some routines that every scientist, engineers, and other specialists do throughout the day. It is ideal for automating boring and repetitive tasks such as copying and editing files and folders around, sending files to servers, running software on your machines or on servers, and analyzing the result of runs of software. Okay, so, but before we start actually programming, we need to touch a very important concept. And this is a starting point before you start programming any task. So we need to know what program is from high level. And to do that, we need to think like a computer scientist. For a computer scientist, program on high level is very simple. So it can be formulated like a problem that consists of just two parts, which called input and output. So input is something that you need to process. And output is the description of the results that you want to achieve by running your program. So it's like a mathematical function, right? And here on the right side, it is a function machine that illustrates how we convert input to the output. And here is an example. So for the simple example is the following. Suppose that we have an array of integers, and the output of our program is the sum of integers in the array. Yeah? So it's formulated in a computer science way. Okay, so now we need to solve this problem, and this is our task as computer scientists to find a solution for our problem. And the solution of problem consists of two parts. So, and one of them is algorithmical part. Algorithm is just a list of the instructions that we need to perform in order to convert input of our program to the output of our program. And the second part of algorithmic part is we also need to think about ways how to store our data inside our computers. So it involves data structures. So here is an example. Our simple example when we have as an array of integers as an input, and we want to produce the sum of the integers as the output. And here's our algorithmical solution. So every single line has is an instruction. So usually when we think about algorithmical part, we think about pseudocode, so not the real code that we are going to put into computer. And here it is. So we have an array which is stored as actually an array in computer, and we can use this notation to represent that. Then we need to think about how to store the results. And we're storing results inside this sum variable that we call sum, which is equal to 0 in the beginning. Then we go for each element in the array and just add this element to the current sum, and then we're printing this one, right? So it can be a pseudocode that we can use as a sketch for our program. So once we have a solution, a theoretical solution, we need to, and this is some disclaimer about algorithmical part. So since you guys not a computer scientist, there is a good news for you. So the majority of the problems that you can meet in your domain, they already have good solutions as a software solution or packages that have already that can solve the computational problems in your domains. And the second good news is that there is still a lot of work going on to improve your packages or your software and provide you this software as a tools for your specific task. And creating new software requires some computer science skills, including theory, algorithm, and data structures, which we're not going to touch here. So, and why this is important is that because while having all this tool software, while we have all this software, we still need to know how to run them efficiently. And for these purposes, programming skills can help us. So we can create our own simple software that will run other softwares and with this computationally hard algorithms. And we kind of can create a wrapper and make solving the tasks that we're interested in more efficient just by using the combination of programming skills and the software libraries that exist in the world. Okay. Now, the second part that I was going, so I told you that there are two parts for solving the formulated problem. So one of them is algorithmical part that we have already discussed, and the second one is implementational part. So assume that at this point, we know how to solve our problem in theory, but how to solve it in practice. So how do we get a computer to do what we decided to do? To answer this question, we need to think about several aspects. First of all, we need to pick the right hardware. So today we have a choice ways to run software on our personal computer or on a cluster like Hoffman or on a cloud. So for example, like Google Collab that we will that we are going to use for this course. Then we have to think about software environment. As I said, there is a lot of software and tools and libraries that can solve problems for us. So we need to find them, to install them, and make them available for solving of our tasks. Then the next thing that we are going to think about is program architecture. So we need to think about how our program is going to be accessible to us, to our users. So is it going to be a script? If it's a script, how it's going to be structured, to be readable, to be maintained. And if we want to have compiled programs, we need to think about which compilers to use, how them to use, and how to distribute our program. The next question is programming language. So as I said, that for creating when we solved our program algorithmically, we didn't, so it wasn't required to think about programming language. So we can just create solution in some pseudocode. And now we need to think about how to convert this pseudocode to an actual code. And there is a lot of languages such as Python, R, C, C++, Java, JavaScript, and every single language can fit to our tasks. So, and here we need to think about, we need to know approximately which tools are better fits for what we're going to do. For example, if we're going to use to run software and to write small wrappers fastly and efficiently, we can use Python. Python is very universal language for that. If we want to do some statistical analysis, we are better to write R because there is a lot of libraries there for statistical analysis. And if we want to do something that should be fast and some codes that should serve for professional software, so we can be required to know C, C++, or Java, or if you want to create websites, it is better to use JavaScript. So I think that at this point, we don't have to worry much about programming languages because all of them I use more or less, like very roughly, more or less the same concept. And if you learn one language, you can switch to another language very easily. And because of that, Python is a very good language for learning. Okay, so next concept is software libraries, as I said, so we can rely on some external code that is delivered in terms of library for mathematical, for mathematics, for making scientific graphics, for working with databases, or for working with data frames. So there is a lot of libraries. And here's our example. So we have, again, input an array of integer, output the sum of the integers in the array, and here is our solution. So we are going to use very simple. So we're going to use Google Cloud. Why? Because it's simple, it's easy for education, it doesn't require any skills to install libraries and software because a lot of libraries are already installed here. And for program architecture, we are going to use Python Notebook because it's also installed there and it's easy to use, and we can use programming language Python because we are learning it. And for software libraries, they're going to be all standard libraries. So now I'm going to show you how it looks there in Google Collaboratory. So here is, Here is my tab. So here is my, I hope you can see my screen when I change the tab in the Chrome. Can you see it?
Yep, we do.
Okay, sounds cool. So here is just to access Google Collaboratory, you just need a browser. Here I have a Chrome browser where I can just log in, where I can just input the URL, and by talking with this URL, I can run my Google Collaboratory. So here I have converted our pseudocode to an actual code in Python. And now I can solve my problem. So it converts an array of integers into the sum, which is equal to 15 for this specific array. So this is the solution for our toy example. Okay, let's continue. Do you have any questions? Okay, so far so good. So next, here's our workshop goals and outcomes. So our goals is to acquiring the most essential skills for solving computational problems, obtaining the basic expertise for computer programming, and understanding the common pitfalls during professional programming and ways to overcome them. And the outcomes are going to be, after the workshop, you will be familiar with the craft of creating software. You will know the basic Python syntax and programming constructs that fit to the majority of programming languages. You will learn basic algorithm principles and data structures, and you will be aware of using libraries that already contain the absolutely majority of coding components that your project may require. Okay. Okay. So, and again, we are not going to learn Python. We are going rather use Python for coding. So, yeah. So. I will. The question is still not sure where to access the slides on Google Docs. So I will write an email for Lloyd when we will have a break. Yeah. So
I'll try to get him. Let's see.
Okay. So it is important to know that programming skills are more about the right way of structuring your program than about the correct syntaxes of your programming languages. So once you gain programming skills in Python, you can easily switch to any other language. And your understanding of algorithms and data structures is more valuable than your programming skills. And this course is about just getting your starting programming and showing the direction for your professional growth after this workshop. Okay, so, and here's our outlines. So first of all, we're going to getting started with programming. So we're going to explore Google Collab infrastructure, actually cloud infrastructure, and then start programming there. Then on the first day, we're going to work on basic data types and variables that allow you to store some information inside the computer. And at the end of the day one, we're going to explore how to make decisions using your programming language. On day 2, we are going to explore repeating of code in loops that allows you to automatize your routine tasks. So if you need to repeat something several times with slight modification of the problem, you can use loops. Then we are going to use to explore more advanced data structures that is such as list. And on day 2, we're going to work on working with files. So actually we can read and write files. So we can read data from somewhere, from Excel file, from CSV file, or any other, or just from text file, and writing the reports inside the files. And the last day, we're going to talk more about structuring a program, and key concept for structuring program is functions, how to write functions. It's basically, you're going to talk about how to make your program manageable and think about how to split your complex problems into small ones and how to reuse chunks of your code. Then we are going to explore set dictionaries, which is advanced data structures that are used a lot in during the programming. And we're also going to discuss the common libraries and concept of working with libraries. At the end of the course, we are going to have final graded homework and final quiz. Any questions about outline? Okay, sounds good.
I have a question, Sergey. So if we have questions about the homework or the quiz, are we able to email you?
Yes.
Any questions or we need help? Okay, thank you.
Yes. So, okay. So to start working with Python, you just need to open your browser and go to the Google Collaboratory. So if you're working with somebody else's computer, it is a good idea to enter into Google Incognito mode just to prevent the browser leave traces on the specific computer that can interfere with other users of the computer. So here's how to do that. So you can just open the Google Chrome now and work in that, whether just in new tab or in incognito window. Okay. So you also need a Google account. So if you are affiliated with UCLA, you can use your UCLA Google account. Otherwise, or you can use your personal account, or you can just create this account by going to this link. Okay. Once you have opened your Chrome browser and have a Google account, you can go to the Google Collaboratory. So you can just use this link that I'm going to put into chat. Link address and so just use this link that I put into chat, and you can start working with the Python notebooks straight away. Okay, so once you opened the link, it asks you to sign in, and here you need your Google account. Okay, so after that, you can just test this notebook just by pressing the play button on the getting starting chunk of code. Okay. if you want to create your own program, you can go to the file in the top left corner. Here is tab file, and press new notebook button, and you will have an empty notebook that is ready to run your own code. Yes, you can create your own notebook if you want to create your code. Yeah. So, and let's create our first program in Collab notebook, which is going to be just simple print hello world. So actually using hello world is a very powerful concept when you start learning any new language. Why? Because before you actually start programming, you need to make sure that your infrastructure, what I mean by infrastructure, is that you installed your compiler, that you set up your environments, and that everything working. So the great test for that is hello world. So in any language, there is its own hello world, which is like tiny program that you can just, what is testing is that after that you can write your program inside the editor, then they compile it and get the results on the screen. And after that, you it indicates you that your system is ready for you to practice programming. Okay, so does anybody have problems with using hello world? Okay, let's wait a little bit while everybody is ready, and I'm going to show you what is actually Google Collab is. So I'm going to use the link that I have sent you. Okay. This is much better. Okay. So. Okay, I'm going to open this welcome to the Collaboratory web page. You can see it opens as a notebook, and this notebook is a tool that widely used for creating analysis or just playing with code, because it is very convenient. Why it's convenient? Because you can create a different chunks of code or comments there. So you can see that if you look at the first chunk, so you can see that it is actually also some kind of code here, right? So we're not going to go into detail, but you can edit it, and it's going to edit the comments there. Okay, so it is easy to take notes there. This is one thing. The second, okay, let me just, I want to get, so go to the next chunk. Okay. So, and you can actually structure this this notebook and create well-formatted documents. What also notebook can do is it allows you to run your Python codes. So here is a small chunk of Python codes, what it is basically doing. It creates some variables, does some calculation, and what is basically, and we can run it and check that it produced some results. So two important parts here. First one is that you can create your well-formatted text, and the second one, you can implement your codes. And here is data science example, right? So here is some two example how that uses matplotlib. So it explores some random variable and creates this graphic. So you can use this graphic for your reports or for your publications. So, and it's what this basically requires is just some small number of lines of code. Okay. So pretty convenient, but to be able to make anything similar, we need to get familiarized with basic programming concepts and some syntaxes. Can you show how you got there again? So here is a link that I posted into the chat. I am going to repeat this one. And
Sorry.
You can just click on it.
My question is about how you were able to kind of edit and add comment. I think at some point you were maybe adding a subsection and adding like comments. That was my question, but I was able to open a notebook.
Okay, so I don't want to be, so you can just double click there. So, or press this button, which opens, which splits the window into two parts. One is coding part, and another is formatted part. And this is specific language for formatting text, which is called YAML. So, and it is not part of our course. However, know its basic syntaxes can help you to format your reports in notebooks. Okay, so
thank you.
Okay. So, can you vote if you're ready, if you were able to run hello world code?
I was able to run it.
Okay. How about everybody else? Thumbs up if you were able to run hello world code. Guys, those who wasn't able to run code, do you have any questions or where did you stuck?
May I have a question?
Yes.
So you are asking us to do the programming, say, hello world, right?
Yes.
So why are you talking about this thing? I mean, added the welcome page of this this thing. I mean, I didn't get the purpose of this.
Oh, okay. So you can go to new notebook. I was just showing. Could you please mute yourself? Because I can hear it.
No, I mean, why are you trying to edit this welcome page of the Google Collaboratory? You know, why are you doing this? I didn't get it.
Okay, I am just showing the properties of this Google Collaboratory of this notebook.
I see what I mean. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Thank you.
Okay. So, and to open, to create your own notebook, you can go to File and open your new notebook. Okay. And here you just type print hello world and just play run button. And this is your first program. And this is your test that your program is working. Yeah. Yes, Python, actually not Python, but this Google Collaboratory is saving all this code inside your Google folder. So you can change the name of your Python scripts here, for example, intro, and it is going to be saved inside your Google Drive, and you can access it later by entering the same link. So it's collab-research-google.com, and then you see a list of all your saved works. Okay, so there is welcome page, this one spreadsheet, another spreadsheet. So, and basically you can even access your Google Drive from here or GitHub, whatever. So there is a lot of ways to load your code, other code that you have on your Google Drive or on GitHub. Okay. So, okay, let's assume that everybody was able to run Hello World. And let's maybe let's have a 5 minutes break, and then we will start learning how to program in Python. Okay, let's meet at 2:37. If you have any question, I can answer them during the break. So the purpose of the main purpose of the Hello World is to make sure that your system is tuned properly. So because before you start programming, because programming consists of several parts, including installing your compilers, exploring how compilers work. It is not the case for this Google Collaboratory specifically, because this is very convenient cloud-based systems that work straight away. And actually Python also is working straight away. But if you're going to program something in C, in C++ or Java, you need to install correct tools, to know how to manage these tools. And if you want, for example, to start coding on other languages, before you start learning concepts like all the concepts that are listed for our course, like understanding how to use variables or loops, or how to work with flows, you want to be sure that what you're going to program is going to work correctly, that the errors you can get during coding are errors that are connected with code, but not with the systems that are trying to interpret or to compile your code. Does it make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, I can explain. So the question, can you explain what compile means? So basically, some languages require compilation stage. Python and R, they do not require compilation most of the time. However, it's not the case for all the languages. Some languages requires for code to be converted from human readable code into machine readable code, and this conversion is called compilation. Okay. Homework assignment will be due a week after the last the last day of the workshop, after date 3. Okay, let's continue. So we all ran the first program, and we are ready to start exploring concept of the Python. So, and the first concept is the variables. So variables are like postal boxes that allows reserving a space in computer memory to store your data. Variables can store data like strings, number, arrays, or many other types, including complex types of data. Like postal boxes have their addresses, variables have personal names that allow, access, and modify the data. Literals are used to represent the values that should be stored in the variables. And here is the example of the variable. So my variable is some place that is located inside the computer. And by naming that, we can store and access in this place our information. And here is the information that we are going to store. And this information is a string. And we use a specific literal to indicate that this is a string and not a number. That's the only way how computer understands what type of values we are going to store inside the variables, because it knows the format of the literals. So here's an example. So we have declared two different variables, my variables and my second variable. And they use two different literals to indicate which type of variables and value of variables are going to be stored inside the memory with assigned names. So for my variable, it's going to be string. For my second variables, it is going to be integer. Then we can use the names to assess the variable by its name. So for example, we can print what is inside the variables. So if we print my variables, we will print the string. If we print my second variables, we will see the number. We can evade using variables by passing literals directly to the functions. So what is function? Function is some chunk of code that is responsible for implementing some operation. For example, print is a function, and how I understand this function, it has the parentheses after its name, and inside this parentheses you can put with variables or literals. You see, it works both ways, with variables and with literals. Okay. So next is, and each variable and literal has its own type. And we can check the type using function type. So my first variable is a string, and we set up as a string. But suppose we don't know, we declared these variables somewhere up in the code, and then could modify that. And to check the variable, we can use the function type. And we can just pass the name of the variables inside it, and it is going to return the type of the variables. And in this case, indeed, the type of the variable is string. Yeah. If we initialize our variable with another literal, so just a number 300, the Python understands that the type of this variable is a number, and it has a specific number, which is called integer. And if we use another literal with a dot, so it introduces a third type, which is floating point number. Okay, and so there can be a lot of different types, including the type that you can specify by yourself, but it is a topic for advanced Python. However, you need to know is that type of variables is very important concept. And so far, we have shortly touched the types of string, integer, floating that we're going to explore a little bit more during a little bit more today. Okay. So, and the first type is strings. Strings in Python are literals that represent text information. Strings starts and ends in Python with quotation marks. And there are two types of quotation marks that can be used, that can be equally used for strings. It's with double quote or single full quote. It's important that for each literal, only one type of quotation mark should start and end text string. So for example, here, there are one string, which is text, comma text, that can be set as two different ways by using different quotation marks, but actually it is the same string. So there is a question. Okay. Okay. So and once you use and quotation marks indicates the ending of the string, and that's why you cannot use them inside the string, but there is a concept that's called escape symbols that you can mask by backslash, that this is not the indicator of end string, but rather than a part of the string. You just use backslash mark. And there are a lot of special characters that can encode specific behavior of the string. For example, you can add new lines to the string, tabs, or carriage returns that is sometimes used for logging. And actually, you can read about escape characters because it's an important concept of the string. And here is a short exercise for you to touch the strings. So please run this 11 examples of the string and try to use them. Yeah. What is the difference between using double quotation mark and single quotation? Okay, the difference is the following. So let's go to my interpreter in my Google Collab. Okay, let's finish this exercise first, and then we are going to discuss it. Okay.
Should we use the same notebook that we use Hello World to do the exercise?
Yes, you can do that. So let me show you shortly what you can do. So let me create and open my Google Collab. So here's my Hello World. Actually, what I didn't tell you is that you can add code. So there is a concept in this Google Collab that, about code chunks. So you can add some codes by pressing this plus code button. Right? So once you press this code button, you can start your new program and start doing exercises. For example, print, something like that. Yeah. And here's our task. You can run all at once, or you can run individually. It's up to you. So, okay, let's go through this exercise together. So, as I said, you can declare your string two ways. So first way is just using double quotes. You can print something, or you can use single quotes. So they are going to be both strings, and it's absolutely equal. Actually, not absolutely, but just equal, similar way to declare in the string. So then you can print your strings that you have declared. So here we have declared two variables n and b, and each of them has its own string inside. So then we can print it. Yeah. If you want to use a quotation mark inside the string, we need to use escape symbol. Now our string A has a quotation mark inside that can be printable. If we are trying to ignore this quotation mark, if we're going to ignore this escape symbol, we're going to have an error. Okay, so the difference between double quotation marks and single quotation marks that I can see is that if I start using the single quotation mark, I can use double quotes inside the string without escape symbol, and vice versa. But I cannot use single quotation mark anymore. Right? So I need to use escape mark. So but if I change it to ending and starting to double quotes, then I can use single quote without escape symbol. So what escape symbols do we have? What special symbols do we have? We can have a new line inside our string. So I put a new line inside our string, and you see when I print it, it's actually split my string into halves. I also can use tab symbol that also format my string specifically, which is very convenient, for example, when we print tables. Or I can even use return courage symbol. So you see it printed the first line entirely, then it printed F and L here, then it's returned courage to the beginning, and as a result we see only ending on the second string. It is used for logging. So I can also escape symbol if I want to print backslash, because otherwise we cannot do that. So, okay. So this is basically it about literals of strings. So let's move on to can you type a comment inside the code chunk? Yes, you can type a comment. For typing a comment, you can use a special character, which is called this pound sign, and you can print any comments here. So Okay. Share my slides. Yes, I'm going to share my slides right now. So share. Okay, I have shared. I'm going to put link into chat. Okay. Okay. Here is the slides. Okay, let's move on. Any questions about strings? Okay. How do we declare the string? So here is the declaration of the string. So I just need to use ways. I can just use double quote mark and then put text inside here. So this is the literal that starts with quotation, double quotation mark, and ends with double quotation mark, can declare a string. I can use this literal to declare the variable, or I can directly use this literal to put into function. So here it is. How do we add comments to our code? To add comments to your code, you can use this pound symbol, and after that, write code. So it's like, this is the comment. Okay, so, and it doesn't affect the code. If you remove this sign, this pound sign, you will have an error. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Okay, let's move on. So you can concatenate strings. So if you have two strings and put a plus sign between them, you will concatenate the strings. You can also use join function to concatenate the string. So the same results can be done by using join function. So this function can be useful when we will talk about arrays. So why it can be useful? Because we sometimes we don't know how many elements we need to concatenate, right? So, and this join function concatenate everything that is inside the square brackets. So we can also format the strings. So if we use the special curly brackets, so, and use the function format, it is going to put elements from the beginning to the end inside these curly brackets. And you can do more advanced formats. So I'm not going, I just want you to know about that there is a lot of options about formatting the strings that you can use. For example, you can name inside the curly brackets, you can put a name which you're going to use to format the specific curly brackets, and then use this name inside the format function. So what does, so, okay, this, the join function is a function over the string. So let me show you. Join function is a function that you can call from string. And for example, I want to join two elements, A and B. I can run it straight away, and my A and B are going to be joined. So, and what does it mean? That means that I'm joining elements of my array by this empty string. That's what it means in the code. So I can use not only empty string to join the code, I can use any kind of string to join the elements in my array. So, or something like that. So any text is going to join my strings. Okay. Okay, yeah. The other interesting functions that string has is, for example, a strip function that removes white spaces from the beginning and from the end of the string. What are white spaces? They are just spaces, tabs, next line. So, for example, it's been very convenient when you work in this file, your file has new line signs, so you can strip them. Okay. Okay, for the plus sign, the question is to show an example how to I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to add a code that illustrates the formatting. So here is my code. So let's put the simple one. So this is a string. This is, so for format is a function of the string. Here we have a string that we can simply print. And it is going to print as curly brackets. If I want you to use it as a format, a string, then I can call a function format from that. And this format understands that it needs to find curly brackets and substitute something inside that. So, for example, I can just add number 3 here, and my string is going to be converted from these curly brackets to 3. If I have 2 format fields, my format function is going to put numbers 1 by 1 there. So it's going to be 3 and 5. If I have more numbers than brackets, it is going to skip some additional values. But if I have less values in brackets, it is going to rise an error. Yeah. So basically, by showing these examples, I wanted to say you that strings has a lot of functions that can be useful when you're programming, and during the next workshops, we are going to explore. I'm going to show you how to explore all the functions of any data type. Yeah. So another function is you can find some substring, the number of substrings inside the string. For example, we have a string here, and we can use the function that calls count to find the number of appearance of character F. Okay. So, and here's your exercise for 5 minutes just to practice important concepts about strings. Okay. Do you have any questions? So here you have 2 strings. This fields X, Y, and Z. You can put everything you want here. What important is you need to leave the special characters, right? Like tab and sign in the first string, and 2 new lines at the beginning and 1 new line at the end for the second string. So format your strings as 1 and as 2, and then just print them. Then you need to explore strip command and see how it works. You can do it just by printing your lines after application of strip command on them. You can declare, there is a way how to declare, I can show you that, but at this point, I would recommend you to declare it in different lines. So you just need to create your own strings. So that for S1, your string should consist of 3 words, so any random words, and string 2 should consist of just 2 words, just any random words. So for example, S1 can look like or something like that. You need to use print to print to show your variables on the display. Yes, this is okay that you don't see the variables. So basically, chunks of codes works this way. So if you declare variables, it doesn't show the results. Yes, you can do that. Yeah. So okay, let's go over this exercises. Let's go over this exercise. So basically we have two strings here, S1 and S2. Let's declare them. So the way to declare them in one line is this way. Because you asked, I can show that S2. Now let's use some kind of A, and A. So now I have two variables declared, S1 and S2. Now let's print them. So print S1. Yes, it showed as it's expected. So it has a tab at the beginning and at the end, which tab indicates indentation and N indicates a new line. Let's see what this S2 looks like. So it consists of 4 lines as expected. Now, if I strip the first one, now it's going to be just 1 line, and the same for S2. Okay, now I want to store the results in the variables S3 and S4. S3 equal S1 dot strip, S4 equal S2 dot strip. Okay. Now I want to count, and I can print them to check that everything is correct. So I'm going to print S3, which is now just 1 line. Okay. Now I want to count the number of words in S1. I know that words are separated by the space, so I can just count the spaces. So I do S1 count. What I'm counting substring which consists of just 1 space, and I know that there are one more word than spaces in the string. That should be this way. So I'm just printing the result. So, and the answer is 5 words because I used not stripped string. However, for stripped string, it's going to show correct results. Okay. So I can also concatenate the strings. So let's concatenate string 1 and string 2. Okay, this is the result. And let's see the result of concatenation of stripped string. These are strings S3 and S4. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. We practiced our strings a little bit and let's continue. So now let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Here we have in Python, we have 2 main types of numbers, which are integers and floating point number. Integers are stored for whole numbers, and floating point numbers are for real numbers. To declare integers, we declare it this way. So we just put the whole number after the equal sign. And to declare floating point number, we need to put a dot there. So this is 2 different literals for integers and for floating point numbers that are different only by dot that separates a fractional part and whole part in floating point numbers. Yeah. So why we have 2 types of numbers inside the point? It is because how memory in computer works. Computer's elementary storage unit is analog to a bulb switch. So it can store only 2 states, on and off. 2 unit combines can store 4 numbers because there are 4 combinations. So you can see it's in the table. We have 2 units, units 1, units 2. One of them, if both of them off, we can assign them to stored value which is equal to 0. If one of the bulbs is on and another is off, depending on which bulb is on, we can differentiate. We can store. We can assign it to the whether to 1 or to 2, right? So if first bulb is on, it's 1. If the second bulb is on, it's 2. And if both bulbs is on, it's a fourth case, and we can assign it to number 3. So as a result, we have 4 combinations, and we can just enumerate them. Okay. 64-bit system have 64 binary units, which is bits, to store one number. And it has 2 to the power of 64 possible combination, which is enough to store natural numbers or integers in range from 9.9 times 10 to 18th power to from minus 9.9 times to 10 to 18th power to 9.9 times 10 to 18th power. How to store other numbers? We can reserve some bits to store the floating, to store the exponential part. And in Python, we reserve 11 bits out of 64 for the exponent. And as a result, we can store such number is 1 minus 1.8 times to the 10 to 308 power. which is much larger than the integer we can store. And we can store very small numbers with the negative 308 power, so very, very small numbers. And we can store both positive and negative numbers. And this is a usage of reserve some numbers for the exponential part. Okay, so there are basic there are basic operations on floating points and integer numbers that are plus, addition, subtraction, multiplication. If you want to raise it to exponent, you use double star here. So for multiplication, you use single star as in language. For exponentiation, you use double star. And for division, for numeric division, you can use just slash. For integer division, you use 2 slashes. There's also modular division and priority. So a whole set of operations that can be implemented on both integer and floating point numbers. So basically, so integer division is just a floor function of division. So if you divide by 5 by 3, you will get the whole part, which is 1. Modular division gives you just a reminder of division. So it's like mathematical operation is 5 mod 3, and its mod is substituted by % sign. And numerical divisions of 2 integers provides you not an integer. So what it provides you a floating point number. Okay. So so floating points have similar operations to integer operation, and the interesting property is that if at least one operand in math expression is a floating point number, the results will be also floating point number. So for example, if you multiply two literals, one of which sets a floating point number and another one is sets integer, you're going to get floating point as a result. And as I said, division of 2 integers is also a floating point operation. Okay, this gives you floating point results. So here's your short exercise for playing with your integers. So I give you 3 minutes to practice it. So, okay, so here's a question for you. You can unmute yourself. So after you implemented the first two strings and print where you first assign x to 5, then you added 5 to your current x. So when you print x, why it's printed 5? Can you answer the question?
Because we need another variable. Is it the reason?
Yeah, so let's explore that, because it's concept that some students have difficult time. So so here's the concept. When you know that we need to declare a variable, right? In order, so this operation is declaration of variable x and assigning 5 to it, right? So this, so far so good. Then when I add x to 5, what is basically happen, the result is 10, right? However, the x itself is still 5. Why? Because this operation is just an addition, and to make x to be to make this expression to affect x, we need to assign x for the second time. If we do this operation, so when we assign x after addition, it is only now it is going to change the actual value of x, right? So this equal sign means store the result inside this x, while here it's just using what is stored inside x at this point. Okay, the second thing is so can you explain what happens here after? So let's consider strings 7, 8, and 9, right? So when on string 7, when we print type of x, it says that it is integer, right? But then on string 8, we added 0, which is floating point number, to x, and stored it inside the x. And now, while value of x didn't change mathematically, so it's still x, the type is changed. So who can explain why the type is changed?
Is it because of the decimal places?
Yeah, so because before I said you that if at least one operator in math expression is float, the result will be float as well, right? So you can see here. So let me show it to you. So if I assign x to 5, and now if I print x, so the result is just 5. It shows us literal, which is equal to integer, right? if I add to integer a floating point number, which is why I understand that it's floating point number, because there is a decimal sign, right? So after performance of this iteration, the integer is converted to floating point because of the rule that if one of the operand in the expression is floating point number, the result of whole iteration is also a floating point number. Okay, and here's a quiz for you. So guys, please vote in the chat. What is the result of this code? Great. Okay, so so this is great. And the second quiz, what is the output of the code? Cool. Okay, I think we can move a little bit faster. So, and here's your short exercise. And after that, we are going to break and then to the final part. So compute the volume and surface area of a sphere with radius 6. And here is the formulas, and here hint the operations that you're going to use. So we will meet at 3:36, okay? So, okay, let's solve this exercise. So we have a sphere of radius 6. So what we can do, we can just simply put mathematical operations here and use our Python as a calculator. So 4 times 3.14 times 6 cubed. Okay. And we can do the same for area with using another formula. So pretty simple. Okay, so let's think about variables, about these basic types, is that, it is not possible to concatenate strings. It's written here variable. It's not in numbers, so it's strings and numbers. String also variable. Okay. Actually no, but whatever. So it should be here strings and numbers. So it's not possible to concatenate string and numbers here. So if you are trying to concatenate them, you will get an error. To escape and because we can concatenate only strings, we just need to convert the number into strings. And to convert number into string, we need to use str function. Okay. So here's short exercise. Just try to do that. Just create one variables of string and one variables of float type, and try to concatenate them, and then convert float to string using str function and concatenate this variable again. So okay, let me show me how to do that. So we need to create variables. So here I create my variable of type string and another variable of type float. And then I'm trying to concatenate them. So how to concatenate them is just use x plus y. It's going to concatenate them. However, I cannot concatenate string with numbers, and that's why I need to convert it. I convert the number to string, so I use str function, and now it works. Okay. Okay. We can read input and writing output from the Python. For reading input, there is a function that is called input, and it reads data from user's input. So it looks like that. If you will just print input inside the code chunk and run that, it is going to wait for user input. So here I can show you. So input, and you see it's waiting for my input. So once I press enter, it accepts my input, and I can even declare some variable and assign it with user's input. Okay, so and now my variable has a value of 1. Okay, so now I can use this input. So I just printed it here. So we can use input to read numerical variables. However, you see here in example, I'm trying to input in integer, right? So let's try to do that. Here is, I assume that, you see I inputted here in integer, and I assume that here is integer of 1 inside my A. If I multiply this integer by 2, I expect to get 2, right? Because 1 multiplied 2 is 2. However, it doesn't work as I expect. Why it's happened is because A is a string. So input do not differentiate what type of input we are entering. So what it's doing, it assumes that everything that we input is an integer, is a string. So that's why we need to convert our input by using keyword like we did for strings. We can use with the int. Okay, so now it's integer because we converted it, or float if we want floating point numbers. Okay. Okay, so now type A is float. Okay. So converting between types in Python is our responsibility. Okay. And if we do not convert, if we forget about converting our input, we can get errors. For example, if we are trying to divide string by 2, we will get an error from our Python interpreter. Okay. So reading integer and floats. Okay. So here I want to tell you that print function can accept not only one number or one string, it can accept a series of variables, right? And furthermore, it can accept a series of variables of different kind. So before we used print this way, so we just used one variable, but if I use a comma and add a string, it is going to work fine. It's just going to print everything that is separated by comma inside the parentheses and separated by a space. You can change the separator if you read about print functions in the documentations, but this is how print is working. So, and yeah, and we already discussed that floats and integers can be converted to string. So actually, you should think in Python. You should think about your data types all the times. So if you so the most common mistake, as I said, is that sometimes people think that they're working with integers or with floats, while in real life they have strings just because they forget to convert it, or trying to print or trying to concatenate strings and integers and get errors. Okay, so here's a short exercise. So try to use input to read try to use function input to read the user's input and implement two previous tasks that we did. So first task is write a program that counts the number of words in the string, and the second one is about computing the volume and area of a sphere. Okay, so let's try to make it. It's written here 5 minutes, so I can give you 3 minutes to practice your skills, to modify your code. So, question. So, okay, let's just write a program for this exercise. So first we need to read. The first one is very simple. We just need to read an input from user and store it in some variable, and then just print the number of spaces in the string plus 1. So here is the code. So if I test it, so yeah, did I inputted some sentence and got the correct answer. And the second one, what I just need is I just need to not to forget to convert input into float or integer, depending on on what I expect. So float is more universal. And I'm going to print the formulas that I used before. 14 A. So put here, I get the correct results. Okay, the question is what? Yep. Okay, yeah. Why do you have to add one for count? Yes, it's because the number of words is one greater than the number of spaces. Okay, let's move on. Here in slides, you can find the additional tests that you can practice at home, and I actually recommend you to practice. They're very simple, however, they give you the skill, you're working on your skills for programming these basic concepts that we just studied. Okay, the next topic is about decisions. So, but before we start that, we need to discuss a separate data type that is that source for storing yes or no information. And this data type is called Boolean. For example, if I want to make a decision, should I wear a jacket outside based on temperature, I can, I have two options. Yes, I have to, or no, I shouldn't do that. And the simplest decision algorithm may look like, if the temperature outside is more than 50 Fahrenheit, I should wear a jacket, for example, more than 60 Fahrenheit. And for these purposes, there is a Boolean variables that accept two possible values, true or false. So, and there are many logical operations or relational operations that return your Boolean in the response. For example, as there is operation if x less than y or x less or equal to y, x is greater to y, x greater or equal to y, x is equal to y. And all of these operations can provide you only one answer, is whether true or false. And here's an example. Is 10 on the right side, is 10 is less than 15? Yes, true. 10 is less than 15. If we can ask another question, if 12 is greater than 12, no, it's false, because 12 is greater than, is equal to 12, but not greater. And it can also work with strings, and with strings it treats one string is greater than another strings if the second strings precedes the first one in the alphabetical order. So what does basically do? It sorts two strings alphabetically, and then assign high number to the strings that goes below alphabetically. Okay, so to practice that, just create and initialize two variables of numerical types x and y, and create a variable b that is equal to x some operation y, where operation is a relation operation such as greater, less, equal, or not equal. Then print this variable b and determine what is the type of this b. So let's practice a bit with this one. So let's create two variables, for example, a equal 10 and b equal 15. And then let's explore them. Let's create the third variable, which is called c. A is greater than 15, right? So now let's print the c. Print c. And you see it gives us false. Oh, A is greater than B. Okay, whatever. So let's print the C, and C is false. Why? Because A equal to 10, 50, B equal to 15, and 10 is actually not greater than B, and that's why C is false. You can see that type of C is Boolean. Okay. Now, here is a quiz, and try to answer what is the result after implementation of this code. Just use chat to answer the correct question. To print your answer. Okay. Any false, DD, false. Okay, yeah, this is correct answer. Yeah, false, because as we just discussed, the result of logical of relation operation is Boolean, and since 12 is not equal to 5, the value is going to be false, and the value of variable b is going to be false. Okay, this is great. Here is the if statement, and if statements serve purpose to alternate the program flow. So as I proposed the example before, that we can determine should I wear a jacket or not based on the temperature outside. So we can use if statement, then put here our logical operation, and then put the program will implement the code that will go after the if statement. So here, for example, we can print message that yes, you should wear it to wear a jacket if temperature is below than 60. And there is else part, which is optional, that tells us which code we should execute if the statement is false in the if part. Okay, so here is an example. For example, we want to decide which command wins the game. So suppose we have two commands, one is eagle and another command is tigers, and we have total scores for both of them. So we can use if statement to decide whether eagles win or not. So if eagles total score is greater than tiger's total score, so we need to print eagle, we can print eagles win. Okay. So so here's two cases with different variables. So in top chunk of code, so the eagle scores are greater than tiger scores, and that is why we see the results, we see the message printed, because indeed eagle scores is greater than tiger scores. But if we change the scores of tigers from 87 to 97, and eagle scores is equal to 90 as it is in the first example, we see that message wasn't printed because the logical statement in if was false, and we don't have else part here. So on the right side, we have both if and else parts. And in this case, we see that tiger's wins are printed. So yes, we can. So here's an exercise. We want to. So the question is, if we have else if statement as well. Yes, here we have else if statement. I'm going to discuss it a little bit later. So here is an exercise for us. We need to read user's input for eagle scores and user input to tiger scores, and write a program that prints the results of the game who won. Okay, so let's try do this on your own. So basically, our code is the following. So let me use it here. So what should I do is I need to write this. First, I need to write input. So it's eagles total score input and I need to write tigers total score. Yeah, and I shouldn't forget to convert it to integer. Then I just need to write the code that is on slide is total greater than t total. Then what? I need to print that eagles won. Another case, because we think that draw is impossible, I say tigers won. Okay. So now let's test this. So indeed, if I put eagles 12 and tigers 14, tigers won. So code work is working correctly. So if I put 14 for eagles and 12 for tigers, everything works correctly. So what happened is we have a draw. We have an incorrect output, right? So, and here we go to very important concept about unit testing. So basically this concept declares that to maintain the quality of the code, each line of the program should work reliably and without errors. And in our case, since we said that draw is impossible, our code works correctly. However, if we exclude this assumption, our code becomes incorrect. And what I just did, I tried different inputs. So in our previous example, to test our code, I tried different inputs, and this what I was doing is called testing. So and what I was trying to say is that you when you create a programs, you need to find as much possible test cases that enough to prove that your code is working correctly. And actually, to prove that your code is working correctly, you need to find a minimal set of trivial tasks that proves that all outcomes or possible outcomes of your code are going to be correct, or that your code covers all possible all possible outcomes. So here with our testing, we figured out that our code is not perfect. So, and to put to make it correct, we need to add another else statement, right? So what will happen if we have a draw? So our code doesn't work correctly, so we need to add another another if statement. In Python, we have a construction that called if, then we can add another elif, and then another elif. Okay, so here for our code, we can add another test. So if total is less than t total, so we can say that tiger wants only if they have more scores than eagles. So now let's test that. So we put 12 scores for each team, and we see that program do not print anything, and now it works correctly. But however, it doesn't print that we have a draw, so we just add another print statement that there is a draw. Okay, so and we need to after each change, we need to test our code again to make sure that it is working correctly. So this is correct, and this should be also correct. So okay, now our code passed all the trivial task, and we can be sure that our program is correct now. Okay, So we just tested our program. And here's the quiz for the if-else statement. So after, what does this program print? Okay, let's go by line. Initially, we initialized a variable a with and assigned it to 17. We check if a is greater than 12. Yes, this is true. 17 is greater than 12. So we reassign a to 1. Now we check if a is less or equal than 12. And since we have reassigned our a, now it's less or equals than 12. And here, after the if statement, we assign it to 3. And so the correct answer is 3. So yeah. Okay, cool. It is not A because here we reassigned it to 3. Okay, cool. Okay. So Boolean operations can be combined. So there are three main operations. There are three operations that can combine so what it allows us, it allows to do several tests at the same time. And here is a table that says us what is the result of each of these operations. So for example, if we have A and B and they both false, A or B is also equal to false. And A and B is also equal to false. If one of the ways A or B is true, then OR operation gives true because it says that we need only one of two relation statements to be true. So, but A and B requires both of them to be true. So A and B, and it's going to be true only when A and B are both true. Okay, and operation not is just negating the negating Boolean. So if A is false, then not A gives us true, and vice versa. True, not true is false. So and has a higher priority than or, and not has higher priority than and. And we can modify the priority by using parentheses like we do it in operations. Okay. So here are examples of using of Boolean operations. So you can look through them. And here is the exercise on the Boolean operation. So write a program that checks if number from user input is divisible by 3, 5, or 7, but not by 15, 21, 35, or by 105. And please take for this exercise 5 minutes. Any questions so far? Okay, let's solve this problem. So we need to take a user input, and don't forget to convert it into integer. So because we're working with integers, and here is, since we have to decide whether the condition true or false, we need to write if statement. But inside the if statement, there should be a complex logical operation. So we need to check if A is divisible by 3. So how to check if A is divisible by 3? We can divide A by 3 and check if there is a remainder. Okay. So if A divisible by 3 equal 0. So if the statement is true, then we are good. Okay, but not only by 3 it should be divisible. It can be divisible. It can be divisible by also by 5 or 7. So if it's divisible by 5, that means that there shouldn't be remainder of division by 5, or there shouldn't be remainder of division by 7. So if any of these 3 statements is true, we are good. However, we have an additional requirements. The number shouldn't be divisible by these numbers. Okay. So, and not divisible by any of these numbers. So it's a divisible by 15 or a divisible by 21 or a divisible by 35 or a divisible by 100. It shouldn't be divisible. Of course, we can simplify the statement, but this way it works. So, and since and has higher priorities than or, we need to add parentheses here, right? Okay. And not has the highest priority, so we are good there. So we should print that the condition is true, or else the condition failed. Okay. Okay. Now we need to test our program. So, what trivial test cases we can imagine? 3 is divisible by 3, right? And not divisible by any of these numbers. Okay, it looks like it's working. Then 5 is divisible. Okay. What's the first number that doesn't fulfill the condition? It is 2. Let's check. The condition is failed. Okay, let's check 15, because it's divisible by 3, but not divisible by 15. Oh, but also divisible by 15, so it shouldn't be, it should be false. Yes, the condition is failed. The next one is, for example, 30. Okay. Okay, looks like it's working, and we tested it rigorously. Okay. So there are some other exercises that I recommend you to do tonight to practice the understanding of these basic concepts. And tomorrow we are going to solve more interesting and a little bit more complex tasks. So be sure that the concepts that we went through today is on tips on your fingers, and you can solve all this task without looking to slides or Googling it. And it is better if you can solve all this task on the paper, just using your paper and pen. And once you think that you have solved your task, try to debug it with using your pen and paper, and then you can debug it using Google Collab. So it's a best strategy to check that all these concepts are on the tips of your fingers. Do you have any questions, guys? So what we have 6 tasks from some basic contest and 2 tasks that we wasn't able to go through today. Okay, guys, any questions? You're welcome. Do you have any comments, suggestions, or preferences? Maybe you want to cover something. Okay, that's good. So if you like the exercise, I recommend you to go through each of them, so even from those that we have solved together, and just make sure that you can solve them alone, because like a big programming or professional programming can consist of these really small skills that are essential, and you just need to memorize it by your fingers. Yeah, and after that you can go to more advanced concept about like algorithms and data structures. Yeah, that's it. So the homework assignment will be a small program that you are going to, so basically what is going to do, you are going to use this Jupyter notebook to create a script that solves some task of data processing. So it is some boring repetitive tasks that can be done, for example, in Excel table. However, since we are learning Python, we can write, I will ask you to write several lines of code to solve this analytical task. Actually, you're going, okay, you will see it on the third day. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? You can ask Eloy for recording. He's going to post it, I believe, after the course. However, if you think that you need them earlier, you need to email them. You're welcome. Okay, guys, see you tomorrow. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I don't know how you spoke for so long. I admire that.
I don't know.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Yeah,
night.
you're welcome. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.